Have you ever had a day where everything felt heavy, where life seemed too much to carry? That was the kind of day when it happened. A young man walked slowly down a busy street. His shoes were worn, his wallet almost empty, and his heart filled with worry. He had just lost his job, bills were waiting at home, and he wondered how long he could keep going like this. He stepped into a small cafe, not because he wanted to, but because he needed a moment to breathe. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the air, and for a second he felt comfort. But when he opened his wallet, he saw only a few coins, just enough for the cheapest drink. He whispered his order, embarrassed. The cashier gave him a gentle smile, but he could see the look of pity in her eyes. He wanted to disappear. Then something unexpected happened. A man standing behind him stepped forward and said, "Don't worry, I'll cover it." The young man froze. He didn't even know this person. The stranger not only paid for his drink, but also added a sandwich and a warm slice of cake. "Everyone needs a good meal," the stranger said kindly. The young man wanted to say thank you, but his voice shook. All he managed was a quiet, "Why?" The stranger smiled. "Because one day, someone helped me when I needed it most, and I never forgot. Today it's your turn. When you feel ready, do the same for someone else." The words stayed with him like a seed planted deep in his heart. He sat by the window, eating slowly, tears forming in his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he felt seen. He felt that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't against him. A simple act had changed his entire day. Days later, the young man still remembered the stranger's kindness. And then came his chance. One evening, while walking home, he saw an elderly woman at the bus stop. She was counting her coins, worried, and finally shook her head. She didn't have enough for the bus fare. The young man hesitated, remembering how little he still had. But then he heard the stranger's words in his mind. "When you feel ready, do the same for someone else." He stepped forward and said softly, "It's okay. I'll pay for your ticket." The woman's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with gratitude. She placed her hand on his and whispered, "You don't know how much this means to me." As he walked away, something inside him shifted. The heaviness he carried for weeks felt lighter. Helping her didn't just ease her pain, it healed something in him too. But the story didn't end there. The woman, deeply touched by the kindness of a stranger, decided she would also give back. The next morning, she baked extra bread and gave it to a hungry child near her street. The child's mother cried, saying it was the first meal they had that day. The mother, feeling hope, promised herself she would share kindness whenever she could. And so the chain continued, moving from one heart to another, unseen but powerful. All of this began with one stranger in a cafe, one small act that rippled through many lives. It's easy to think that kindness needs to be big, expensive, or dramatic, but in truth, it's often the smallest actions that leave the deepest marks. A meal, a ticket, a smile, a word of encouragement. Things that seem small to us can feel like miracles to someone else. And maybe that's the real magic. Kindness doesn't stop with the person who receives it. It grows, it travels, it reaches people we may never meet. The young man never saw that first stranger again, but he carried his words for the rest of his life. When you feel ready, do the same for someone else. Years later, whenever he helped someone, he always remembered that day in the cafe, the day a stranger lit a small flame inside him, and that flame never went out.